Welcome everyone to our first JP Systems Mint webinar. The mission of the JP Systems Mint program, which stands for Mentoring and Novel Technologies, is to identify federal teaming partners to expand our federal healthcare IT solutions. JP Systems is a federal prime contractor with awards of over 140 million in the healthcare IT space. And healthcare is always looking for new capabilities. There's a lot of challenges associated with clinical data management, and that's the focus of my company, JP Systems. We were founded in 1983. So we have with us today Kayla McCutcheon. She's our marketing coordinator. And next slide, please. Okay, so why Mint? The federal government actively encourages teaming partnerships. Winning begins long before the proposal drops. First, we create marketing strategies. Then we get ready to respond to proposals. Then we understand the contract award system. It's crucial. And then I've got here some very useful links for people getting started in the federal space. The first one is if you can see the screen we're presenting, that is a page on the JP Systems page, which is jpsys.com. That is our Mint program page. That links to that page to describe the program. The next one is an overview put together by Deltec. It's only about 10 pages long, and it just presents a huge overview of federal contracting. I find it very helpful. It's a good starting point. That's why I put the link here. Then Deltec, of course, is the huge company that a lot of the large primes use to receive the data on what the federal government is buying. They bring together in one database all the procurement information on the federal government. So Deltec is a huge resource. You subscribe to their various products. Another source of the information on what the government is buying is put together by govtribe.com, and that link will sign you up for a free trial of GovTribe to see what is the government buying. And GovTribe is a much smaller company at a much lower price point. So if you're very new to federal contracting and you just want to see what is out there, what is the government interested in, and are they looking for what I sell, my products or my services? Looking around at GovTribe or Deltec will give you the answer to that. And keep in mind the lead times for the things the federal government buys is very long. Some of these things we track for 2 to 3 years before they actually start purchasing. To be able to solution and put teams together, complete teams with complete technical solutions. Then there's 2 other links, government contracting tips, and then also Judy Bratt's website. Judy Bratt owns Summit Insight. She is an expert at federal contracting and someone that you can reach out to for questions. With us today, we have 3 experts on federal contracting whom we're making available to you, that you can contact them, find them on LinkedIn, and they can help you get started. So let's see, next page. So just a little bit about us. Again, we were founded in 1983, and our mission is focused on standardizing, managing, and improving the interoperability and usability of data. Interoperability is a term for, can that data be exchanged in a way that it's understandable to the receiving party? Because once data leaves the system that generated it, the underlying code sets may be very different. So that anyway, you can see our website, Healthcare IT, interoperability.com, and that will explain a lot about interoperability. So we are CMMI for services appraised, and we also have our ISO 9001 quality management system, and we're a official certified woman-owned small business. Next page. So these are agencies that we've served. The VA is our largest client. We've also taking care of ONC, now part of ASTP, the Department of Commerce, Strategic Air Command. Again, there's ASTP there, Department of Transportation. We work a lot with the FDA, NIH, Indian Health Services, and the Naval Research Lab. So just a smattering of different agencies. When you're getting ready to be a federal contractor, you want to put together a target that looks just like a dartboard of what agencies are you really want to track for that they seem to have the highest need for your product. So develop a target of the agencies that you're looking for. And, taking a look at GovWin and Deltek's databases will help you find out what these agencies are buying. This is very different at the commercial space where you go out and find customers. Here we have to wait to hear what the federal government is telling us they want to buy. They send out a request for proposal and we write a proposal and submit it, often with technical volumes and pricing volumes. And then they choose from all the people submitting the proposals who's going to do the work. Then they award a contract to that entity and then the work commences. So everything is driven by the procurement process. Next slide. Okay, these are our core capabilities. So take a look, see if anything is connected to what you provide as a company. We do a lot of HL7 standards consulting, that's data standardization. We do data standards development. We do data quality improvement. So that touches on a lot of areas, not just necessarily healthcare. Data management standardization, clinical process analysis, interoperability planning, stakeholder engagement. A lot of agencies have a great need for stakeholder engagement, and this is a wonderful skill to develop. We do a lot of onboarding for the federal health agencies, particularly the Veterans Health Information Exchange. And we also do enterprise architecture, business analysis. We also do data modeling and IT policy and strategy consulting. Okay, next slide. Okay, what are the benefits of the MINT program? We welcome new corporate partners who want to build long-term relationships and enhance innovative capabilities in support of our government customers. We are looking in particular for AI companies, for data science companies, and for cybersecurity companies. So those three areas, that doesn't mean that's all we're looking for, but in particular, AI capabilities, cybersecurity, and data science. We find that all those are compatible with the things we already provide. We are a bit of a niche, even inside the healthcare IT space. We have a niche inside of that. So we are a very specialized company, which is why we're looking for more partners. Next slide. Okay, now the most exciting part here. We have three speakers that we have a great deal of respect for: Shauna Weatherly, Brian Stone, and Bob Justice. So Shauna Weatherly is president of Federal Subcontract Solutions. She's been in the federal arena for a long time and has as a contracting officer before she started her own company. And we're looking forward to what she's going to present on changes to the FAR and the current federal procurement realm. Shauna, take it away.
Thank you so much. Happy to be here today. As Jackie said, I'm going to be providing a quick overview of the federal market, talk a little bit about what agencies are looking for when they're looking for contractors, and the traits of successful companies at the federal level. Now, I was a federal contracting officer and chief of contracting for a long time, did a little project management, acquisition policy in there over 35 years. And now as an industry consultant, since I retired, I try to bring the lens of all those experiences into working with clients and how best they can help understand and get into the government and understand what it needs quickly and concisely so they can grow their businesses. So next slide, please. Right now, we have an evolving federal marketplace. If you haven't read the news, haven't heard things through the grapevine, we do. And over the last 12 months, we've seen some changes. But I want to talk first about some core aspects of how federal agencies do their buying that really remains unchanged. So the first is that there is still going to be a reliance on contractors to support mission delivery. The government simply just does not have all the expertise it needs in-house to meet every need. That's why we contract out services and products. The next thing that is going to stay the same is how well you have performed, preferably on federal contracts in the past, is the credibility that brings your company into the federal marketplace and carries a lot of weight in terms of potentially receiving future contract awards. What you've done in the past is a lens into what you can do in the future and the outcomes you can bring going forward. That's why federal agencies like that. And lastly, the government is inherently risk averse. It's going to try and shift the risk of price, schedule, performance, and delivery always to the contractor as much as possible by using specific contract terms and conditions. So it's really important that you understand what those are in this changing environment and how those work to your advantage, whether you're looking in a prime contract mode to move into that area or as a subcontractor or team member. It's very important. So we kind of know where we stand with those things that aren't changing. Those are pillars in the federal marketplace. But what we're seeing evolve is entry points into the marketplace, even for the purchase of commercial goods and services. And we used to see a lot of purchase card buys, purchase orders for things under $350,000, that simplified acquisition threshold, and orders on existing contracts. However, the Office of Management and Budget, as a result of executive orders to consolidate contracting, is now prioritizing the use of existing contracts for all commercial buying to the maximum extent possible. So there's really fewer open market purchases that will likely be available going forward in this marketplace. Acquisition processes are becoming leaner in terms of their burden and duration, and market research is now more streamlined. So there's quicker response times becoming standard practice. Oral presentations and demonstrations are increasingly preferred to written proposals, and creative evaluation methods that require less time and move agencies faster toward award are going to become commonplace. And then there's changes to regulations, policies, and processes that are reducing friction in the process that we've seen in the past. And the ability to understand them is getting easier. A lot of the non-statutory language has been pulled out. And we'll talk about that in the next slide. So what we've seen with the Federal Acquisition Regulation, or the FAR, is a shift that's occurred over the last year. There was an overhaul done of this regulation, its first major update in its 42-plus year life. And the primary purpose of the overhaul was to really remove, like I said, non-statutory processes that had evolved over time and frankly had tied the hands of agencies and eliminated a lot of flexibilities. Every part of the FAR, and there's 53 parts of it, had some changes, but the changes that are of most concern is, I think, what we're going to talk about today here. We had impact response times are shortening up and streamlining, and it's going to allow for more innovative offer and evaluation methods, like I just mentioned, particularly when it comes to market research, soliciting offers and evaluation methods, and most often at those lower dollar thresholds under $350,000, which the government states is the simplified acquisition threshold. We're going to see a lot more demonstrations, presentations, requests for information in maybe a longer survey format, comparative evaluations where the government compares offers to each other versus against evaluation factors. Those types of things are new methods that are being encouraged now at these lower buying thresholds. We've heard a lot in the news about small business changes, and one of the things we're seeing is that the preponderance of social disadvantage is out when it comes to getting contracts. Economic disadvantage is going to be in. I think Brian's going to break down some of these programs a little bit more in his section, so I'm not going to go into all that. But the 8A program is one that's been in the news lately because it's gone through a 100% audit. There's been pushes to modify that program for more competition, less sole source awards. Now, sole source awards are only done after competition has been tried. And then follow-on work, it used to be that once we had an 8A contractor that had an award, it could never go to any other category. Once an 8A, always an 8A was kind of the adage there. But now programs can move, or excuse me, opportunities can move between programs. So an 8A contractor, let's say, may have had a current contract and is the incumbent, but the government may decide now to move and switch to a woman-owned small business or a service-disabled veteran-owned small business, one of the other categories of federal contracting support programs. So we can see some movement in the market there. We're also going to see agencies scored differently when it comes to their annual scorecard through the Small Business Administration on how well they're doing with awarding contracts to small businesses, including prime and subcontracts. There's going to be a renewed emphasis on veteran-owned small businesses and service-disabled veteran-owned small businesses. So if you have a certification in one of those areas, you're going to be a very sought-after partner or sub to help fill those goaling requirements. And there is a bill pending in Congress to create actually a veteran-owned service, small business service category for goaling purposes as well, which we don't have yet. And then we're going to see at least two places where we have some clashes between the changes that have happened with the FAR and the Small Business Administration's regulations. They don't jive right now. And some of that's related to kind of the chicken or the egg, who sets the rule and who has to put it into process. It's always been SBA sets the rule when it comes to small business things, and FAR, the Federal Acquisition Regulation, puts it into actual implementation. But we're seeing the reverse happen now in a couple of places where it comes to how much subcontracting you can have depending on the type of work you perform and the basis of that calculation, and then size standards, whether or not you have to be small at the time you submit an offer, whether it's at the time you receive a contract award or when you receive an order. So more to come there, because that's still all kind of fleshing itself out through what I believe will be final rulemaking coming up here that's going to start in April. Next slide. So some basics about what agencies want. They're not shy about asking for what they want and need from contractors. Government's going to ask for what they want. So, I mean, that's just straight up. And aside from just performing the work itself, responsiveness, performing quality work, and ensuring companies have the resources to do the work, agencies really want companies that hit those top three across from left to right. Knowing the agency's priorities, challenges, and required outcomes is a huge thing now. They want to know you know them as well as you can, and that you are forward thinking with your solutions and innovative, and that you provide value added solutions, just not for the contract that you're working on now or the opportunity you're seeking now, but those that carry the agency into the future. You're thinking ahead, you're helping them strategize and move forward with the best possible solutions. So when you're marketing to an agency for prime work, or even to a prime for subcontractor work, you really need to be heavy on telling that part of the story, how you can do those three things with your company, and how you can bring those items to the table in any partnership or teaming arrangement that you do. And then, of course, agencies want all this for a fair and reasonable price too. So that's always an issue there. That's never going to go away. Next slide, please. So if you're wondering how you can do all this, you really are doing a lot of it already, right? You can leverage a lot of these things to grow your capabilities in the areas on that previous slide. You're probably already delivering reliable results on your current contracts. You're working with performance expectations and timelines for your clients or your prime contractor. You're coordinating with a team and clients, and you're demonstrating a technical capability and consistency in your quality, communications, and performance of the work. So all you have to do is think about these things from the lens of a government or a prime contractor. Document your projects, the challenges you've had, the lessons learned, the outcomes, the role you played, the specific work you did on those projects, and then use that information to start building an asset library of information that when opportunities come up, either from a prime contractor to team or sub, or a prime yourself, maybe you're seeing an opportunity that maybe you could perform on your own, you are ready to respond. You have all this information that you can bring to the government, because they will be asking for it. That's the information the government always wants to see, is your experience and what you've done and the roles you've played in past projects. So really important to start documenting that and keeping a library of that, what I call an asset library. Next slide. And if you're thinking about transitioning from sub to prime, there is a different posture there. A lot of these apply as a subcontractor as well, but just start getting into these focus areas. There's 5 of them here that I think are really important that you should start familiarizing yourself with. One is understanding the procurement requirements and other relevant regulations to target your clients. They all have their own as well as a government-wide arching one. So having knowledge ensures that you're going to be compliant, and you build credibility by understanding how they have to operate. Highlighting your innovation, value, and relevant past performance is really important, ensuring that your proposals are well prepared, clear, and detailed. Tell us what the advantages are. When I was a contracting officer, I wanted to know what were the advantages of using your company and the value that you brought that nobody else could. That's really a huge currency in today's federal market. It's functioning on value and innovation. Strengthen your program and quality management capability. Have a staff that understands and is committed to quality management in terms of managing the work, effective and efficient communications internally and with your client, and taking on the administrative burden and details to be part of a federal contract or subcontract to a prime. You want to make sure you don't wait until you're awarded an action to understand reporting and compliance requirements. So you need to build operational and compliance systems and processes. There are a lot of things to track, a lot of things to look at, a lot of timelines you have to meet, and just performing the work is always not good enough. You have to be on time with the reporting and compliance pieces too. There are extensive lists of these that consultants can help you pull together. I do that for clients all the time. You don't want to bring a contract to somebody and say, now tell me what I have to do in order to keep this other than do the work. And then create solid documentation, accounting, and record keeping systems. I can't say often enough that you need to do this early. Shore up your documentation and record keeping for audits, segregating costs, chain of custody, detailed timelines. Retaining even the simplest correspondence is going to be essential to protecting your interests, and poor record keeping can really lead to difficulties in compliance, resolving disputes if you ever have them with the prime or the government. And, it keeps you out of trouble if you have those records. So it's a must for primes and subs. And next slide, please. So this is how you can contact me and some information that I have on my website and about what I do and support companies. I start with people that are just getting into the market and just learning about things. There's no dumb question when it comes to me. So feel free to reach out anytime. If I had 2 takeaways, I would say is just expect faster acquisitions with more variability across agencies, and just realize that the regulatory landscape will remain unstable a little while as the marketplace continues to transition. I hope you have the great rest of your day, and I'm looking forward to hearing everybody else talk today.
Thank you, Shauna. That was great. And you can put questions in the chat, in the Teams meeting chat here for our speakers, and we will get to them at the end of this presentation. Next, we have up Brian Stone, who's the president of Stone Management Consulting, and he will be speaking about business development and capture. Brian.
Hey, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. I'm really happy about the fact that we're coming on a holiday, so hopefully you're going to be able to spend some time with family and friends this weekend. And just as Jackie noted, I serve as the Chief Growth Officer here at JPSys. And just as a background, I have been in government contracting for over 25 years. I've worked with both publicly traded companies and privately held companies in standing up federal contracting practices and accelerating programs as a program manager, both at the federal, state, and local level, and work with agencies here in the U.S. And then also overseas with foreign governments as well. And so today I'll cover some topics, right? I know there was a lot there that Shauna went through, right? And I know that we have a diverse audience here in terms of how folks that have been in the marketplace and contracting and others that are maybe new to the marketplace. And so I'm sure there's a lot of information that's coming forward today. And so my hope is just to have some direct conversation essentially about social classifications. I know that Shauna touched on that earlier in the presentation today, and also speak to the differences between business development and capture. And then kind of like the strategy about how to go about that really to be effective in the federal landscape. Next slide, please. So when we look at all of your origin stories are pretty exciting, right? You all come from very dynamic places and lived experiences, right? And as you stand up your enterprise, some of you are veterans that are out there that have served in our military and armed forces. Others represent, women-owned small businesses like Jackie here as our founder here at JP Systems, and other small business classifications. And they're really important when you're doing business with the federal government. As you know, not everyone can be a Deloitte or a Booz Allen or a Raytheon. Some of us are clearly aspiring to have large enterprises. Some of them just are very content to be small businesses. And the federal government realizes that. And so what's important for them is really, again, to identify how they can provide opportunity for economic growth and entrepreneurship with all among industry. And by doing that, many of these agencies set essentially small business goals that determine and outline by policy what percentage of contracts should ideally be awarded to a small business classification. As you know, with this administration, there's been a lot of changes, as we know with FAR 2.0, in terms of the federal contracting regulations, trying to streamline acquisition, trying to reduce waste, fraud, and abuse, which is rampant, as one can imagine, in such a large marketplace. And so they're really focusing on, trying to bring forward meritocracy of contracting and really focusing on economic classes, right? Really focusing on different small business classifications, whether they're women-owned small businesses or organizations that come from hub zones, where there can be economic development and opportunities that need to be developed in the communities across the country. And then, of course, agencies like the Veterans Administration has a strong priority for working with veteran-owned small businesses by statute, right? So that's kind of really important, right? Is to make sure that you go about the process of not only raising your hand in the marketplace to say, hey, we want to be here to be a partner with you, but also this is what we can bring forward to helping your agency achieve these goals that they set each year. Additionally, when we look at key certifications, right, and their value, right, it's important that there's entities out there that exist at the federal level, as with the SBA, as well as the state level, that determine and certify your organization, and ensuring that you have the ability to perform optimally within the federal government. Right. So those of us that are doing a lot of cyber work or working with technology companies, we're familiar with CMMC requirements, which is like your cybersecurity or your FedRAMP certifications, right? Being able to, if you operate a cloud environment on behalf of the government, and also your ISO certifications, right, in terms of your industry standards and how you operate as an organization. These things are really important. And again, they can impact where you play ball, essentially within the federal government, and also within supporting other prime contractors and your teaming partners. We'll move to the next slide. So as a general background, right, I think that business development and capture are very unique. And I look at business development as the investment that you're going to really make and trying to gather a lot of intelligence, a lot of strategic insights, and really go about building what should be long-term relationships with your customers, right? So it used to be the case for many federal agencies and a lot of spending and acquisition that it was very transactional, right? When you think about like lowest price gets the business, and the next man up, next woman up to perform that work, great. We're just trying to save money. And because of the complexity of contracting, because of the complexity of deliverables that are now coming forward within supporting the government and all the different initiatives and priorities that the administrations and agencies take, it's important to really have a good understanding of what's really needed within those agencies that you're targeting. And so when we look at business development, oftentimes it's one of those expenses as a small business owner. You really try to manage, as you grow, and we have to be very mindful of that. But it's important to really do the intelligence gathering. It's really important to build the relationships that you have with industry partners, whether they're existing incumbents that are performing work that you're interested in doing, or also convening with the agencies themselves and different representatives with the federal government. And it's important to do that in a way that, again, you're not just coming in as a consumer. You're coming in to build relationships with these organizations and also these teaming partners that you're going to look to work with as you mature as a federal contracting entity. From that, you build your pipeline, right? And that's the ability to essentially, focus on your core contracts that you're going to be looking at or core opportunities. that you're going to look to focus on as you see and witness what's going on within the marketplace, and also being able to tell your story very well with your marketing collateral and in the marketplace with your capabilities briefs and decks and your branding overall. You really want to be very focused and articulating what you do really well. When we look at business capture, right, that basically goes from the intelligence gathering element now to the operational and tactical, right? How are we actually going to go about winning this work, right? It's one thing to have an aspiration to go after business, right? It's another thing to really be very diligent and also very pragmatic about the probability of winning that work, and that's really key. If we can move to the next slide, Kayla, that'd be great. So again, when we look at targeting, Miss Jackie referenced this earlier in the conversation about, having a very good target, right? I think that, there's so much going on within the federal marketplace, and every day we pick up and we see on Twitter feeds about multi-million-dollar contracts being awarded and all these different nuances that are going on with federal spending. And we just think, wow, it'd be great to be a part of that. And it is. It's, you don't take a mountain at once, you take it one step at a time. And so in order to do that, we need to be very targeted in terms of how we focus on market opportunities. So, the ways to do that, right, is to look at business intelligence platforms that are out there. The federal government has business intelligence platforms that they provide by statute, where they have to disclose that there are public procurement opportunities that are happening at the federal, state, and local level. And then, of course, there's also private entities that are out there that collect a tremendous amount of business intelligence that contractors are able to license from a subscription-based standpoint and pull in a lot of business insights. Generally, when I work with clients and entities, I like to really create public sector fusion centers, right, where we're pulling in as much procurement data as that's out there that we can ingest, in concert with what's going on with the news of the day. As we all know, government reacts very rapidly in a very short cycle. And a priority on a Thursday can be very different than a priority that comes forward on a Monday, right? And agencies pivot very rapidly to accommodate that transaction that's happening in the public sphere. So identifying those opportunities early on is very significant. Like Ms. Jackie noted, there are opportunities that we track from 12 to 24 months in advance, which is very, very significant. Also, when you're looking at in this relationship building capacity that I mentioned earlier, right, on the business development side, it's going to be really important to connect with prime contractors that have built that past performance in the marketplace, that have those relationships with the program offices and the OSDBUs, the Office of Small Business that exists within each of the federal agencies. And really look at building your champions and your advocates. And again, the use of subcontractor teaming and existing contract schedules that are out there, multi-award task order contracts like OASIS and the GSA schedule are all statutory contracting mechanisms that exist for you to do business, which is really, really key. Next slide. So again, when we look at moving into that, business development, moving into capture, right, we're getting into like proposal team development, and I know that we have some other experts that are going to speak to that after myself and Mr. Bob Justice. It's important to recognize that like no one's stronger than all of us, right? And I think that's really key when we look at teaming. Federal contracting and particularly agencies are really looking to have a lot of single award contracts where the team is comprised with all the primary entities that really can execute a mission versus having all this disparate contracting that's coming out. In fact, just this week, OMB released a new requirement now that every agency's CIO is going to have to basically ensure that when they're buying software solutions, for example, that they actually evaluate what other agencies have contracts already in place on the information standpoint, because that's going to be really critical for us as taxpayers, right, to help mitigate costs and finance within the federal marketplace. So building that proposal team is really key. Building those relationships is really essential. And then you're going to get into really the analysis of like, hey, can we really do this? Who's going to lead this proposal development? Do we really have a win theme here? Can we score really well? Each of the different contracts, by the way, they're evaluated differently, have scoring sheets that come forward that say, hey, if you have this certification, you get this number of points. And if you have, this many years of past performance of contracts over a certain, multi-million dollars with the level, those count as well. All that comes into perspective when you're going about doing business. And I think that one of the things that I really want to carry forward is that federal contracting can be very Darwinian. Everybody, often a lot of the big firms that you see in the Beltway, they are sharks, right? And so it's really important to develop, longitudinal relationships with entities that can really partner with you to be successful for your success. And also take what you bring forward and be proud of what you built thus far, and be a steward of that organization that you've created, because again, you want to look out for the long-term benefits of yourself as founders and principals, and also your employees. And so we are all responsible for that when we get in these teaming relationships and partnerships on these contract pursuits. Loyalty is really important, right? And sometimes, we want to really focus on, is this the right decision to be teamed up with this entity or not? They have a history of kind of bailing on you when the task orders are being issued. All those things come into play. One last thing that I'd like to comment up before I, move on and pass to Bob in the next segment, is that this administration is very much encouraging commercial enterprises to come forward and raise their hand to say, hey, we can do something on behalf of the federal government. And you're seeing a lot of transactions that happen within a lot of changes within the federal acquisition schedule of FAR requirements and policy, like Shauna had noted. But also, there's a tremendous amount of value in also engaging in government affairs and convening with members of the House and Senate where you can, your local representatives, and raise your hand to them, letting them know what business you operate, that you're interested in being a force multiplier for them in serving the federal government. And that does carry a lot of weight, honestly. I think that, one of the things that's really important, and I know that, Shauna mentioned this earlier about, sole source contracting. I'm actually working on 3 contracts right now that are executed for sole source. These are entities that are new to the federal government marketplace. They've never had contracting before, but nonetheless, the administration sees a very strong value with what they can bring forward. They want to operationalize it. So it's really important, again, to be with the right parties that can help, shepherd you during this process and be a force multiplier. And we're excited to help. This Mint program is our approach to doing that as a business, to help bring others into this circle, to help build other tremendous enterprises as well. Next slide. So just as a background, I am Brian Stone again. My information is here. I work mostly within DC, Northern Virginia, but I'm happy to help in any way in providing strategy and advisory services, mergers and acquisitions, and also on government affairs, because those are pretty key elements in terms of what's going on with appropriations and contracting. And so with that, I will pass the baton to Mr. Bob Justice. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian. Great information. And just to let you know, we will be distributing these slides after the presentation, and this video will also be out on our YouTube channel. So if you have any questions for the speakers, please put those in the chat. And let's see, what other notes? Yes, so now we go to Bob Justice, proposal director. He's an expert in understanding the proposals and developing cost proposals and directing proposal responses. Bob. Are you unmuted? Is he with us? There he is. Yes.
There we go. Sorry about that. Thank you, Jackie. Yeah, I've been working proposals for 39 years. The government passed a law called the Competition and Contracting Act back before I started doing proposals, and that's why we're here, because the government, we used to be able to just do whatever with contracts, and somebody decided that we needed to compete government contracts. And so now we have the proposals process. So Shauna has done a good job with you so far to prepare you for doing business with the government. And Brian has done a good job of making contacts and building relationships and understanding customer needs. And so now a request for a proposal comes our way and we have to respond to it. So the request for proposal response, the proposal is a document. Our product is a book, and that book could have 1 volume, it could have 8 volumes. And we have to understand what it is that we have to write and make certain that we write a compliant proposal and a responsive proposal. It's very easy for the government to throw you out if they ask you for something and you don't answer it. If they ask you something and you do answer it, they can agree or disagree, but it's very easy if they ask you something and you don't answer it to say they're not responsive, they're gone. So we have to make certain our proposals are responsive. And then likewise, we have to make certain that our proposals are compliant. If they say that they want red, you give them red. You don't say give them green and say this is why green is better than red. You give them red. That's called compliant. So here we go. Looking at the chart. Oh, yeah, chart. Thank you. So we got to develop our strategy. And that's where Brian sort of hands it off to the proposal team, because he understands the customer, he understands the competition, we understand us. So we have to put all this stuff on paper so that we know what to write to. So an example of the customer. The customer has an evaluation board, and those are made up of human beings, and those human beings have different agendas. And so one of the things on a proposal that we did a while back, not we JPSys, one of my favorite ones, is we put all the decision makers on a piece of paper and we identified what was important to them. And there's one person going to retire next month. Right after this solicitation they've gone. Not too worried about that person. Somebody else, a lot of them were just wanting to get home in time for the kids' soccer game. And okay, fine. And then we had this one person, young, ambitious young lady. She was in on all the meetings. She knew all the details. She was going to build a big organization for herself in the government site and ultimately take over. That's who we wrote to. In fact, when we had built our organization chart, we showed our people and we showed their people and how our people were going to relate to their people. And it turns out most all of our people were relating to her. So she now had control of her people that she was building, in the empire that she was building, and she had our people. So she liked us. Another example of building the strategy is when the government wanted 19 people, and we could only afford to sell them 17 because we had high-priced people. So how do you get 17 people to do the job of 19? Well, it turns out we had a community of excellence. They had huge amounts of expertise in exactly what it is that the customer needed. So instead of our 17 people having to sit there and figure it out on their own, they were able to just pick up the phone, call an expert within the company, and get the answer in minutes. We were able to sell that idea, a force multiplier, like Brian mentioned earlier. And our 17 people were able to do the job of 20, it turns out. So we were successful in convincing them, using that strategy, that we could do the job with 17. So now we got the RFP sitting in our hands, and we got to figure out what to write. So we have to, well, first thing, I'm going through these bullets here. We do a bid, no bid decision after the RFP is issued. We have already qualified the project as being a project that we can do and we think we can win, but the RFP is dropped, and sometimes the requirements are different in the RFP than they were in the draft or what we heard on the street. So we have to go back and do that bid, no bid decision again. And I think one of the things we have at JP Systems is a worksheet with a bunch of questions on it. Do we know the customer? Does the customer know us? Do we have the capability of doing the work? Does the competition currently doing the work do a better job than we do? This is just a list of questions. And at the bottom, we score the opportunity. And if the score is high enough, we bid. Now we need a proposal management plan, something to get everything going. A proposal management plan is going to consist of a schedule, and it's going to consist of writer templates for each of the volumes. The writers need to just go in and plug in, fill out the form, if you will. It's a document, a Word document, and they just write into their sections what they have to write. We also have a requirements matrix where you take the entire document and you put it in a spreadsheet essentially, or you give it to your AI, but you put it in a spreadsheet, and now all the requirements are in one place. The next thing you have to do to generate your outline is you got to sort those requirements so that all the requirements that are appropriate go together. You might have a requirement for personnel in one place of the RFP, and then 20 pages before that, you might have another requirement for personnel, and then 20 pages before that, you might have another requirement for personnel. Well, you have to get all those requirements side by side so you can figure out what your total requirements are for your personnel. So you do a sorting exercise and some other magic, and the next thing you know, you have an outline that is compliant and responsive. Everything they've asked for has a place. Everything they require is clearly stated. So there's no excuse for providing non-compliant or non-responsive proposals. Now we've got all that together. We have a meeting and we kick it off. All the writers are in there. Everybody that's going to participate is going to be in this meeting. And we're going to go over the solicitation. We're going to go over the schedule. We're going to go over issues that were found while we were decomposing the RFP and generating the outline. There's always a list of questions. You say, well, you said this here, you said that there. What do you mean? So you have to pull those questions together, and all that stuff happens. Part of it happens during the proposal management development plan, and part of that happens during the kickoff meeting. You're going to have somebody on there that knows something about the competition, and so you want to make sure you capture that. So your kickoff meeting is partly information sharing as to what other people on the call know, but it's also level setting of what the expectations are for writing and for when and who is going to do what. We might have Galen doing the cost prop. We might have Brian doing a section on how we understand the customer and its issues. You might have me doing up resumes and personnel stuff. You're going to have somebody else writing down our past performance. And then you're going to have a bunch of subject matter experts whose job it is to articulate the solution that we're providing to the government in writing. You don't just send people off and say, go write. You need to determine what you're going to say. So we have content planning sessions, whereby we'll sit down, Brian will sit down with Jackie and Galen and everybody, whomever else is important. They'll say, well, what is it that we want to say when we're telling the government that we understand their problem? And likewise, you do the same thing with a subject matter expert. They said, well, they want a red frog, and we only have green frogs. So how are we going to give them red frogs? And so we figured out how we're going to get there. Something else that comes out of the content planning session is there's three things that you have to say. One is, the first thing you have to make sure to communicate is that answer the question. If they ask you a question, answer the question. First sentence, answer the question. If they say, what time is it? You don't say, oh, let me tell you about my watch. They asked you the question, what time is it? Why, it's 11:35 and 42.687 seconds at the sound of the beep. Beep. Now let me tell you about my watch, how I was able to give you such an accurate time. Answer the question first, then explain why it's good. And finally, why does this benefit you? How does our solution benefit the customer? If we know the time down to a billionth of a second and the other guy only knows the time down to 5 minutes, well, you got more accurate time. That's how you benefit. Something else you want to do during your content planning session is define what graphics you're going to use. A lot of process flows, really, really good for graphics. We start here, we do this, we do that, we do the other thing, and then we're done here. And what comes out of that is these products. That's a good graphic. Another good graphic is your organization chart. Shows how who's in charge, who's doing what. And another good aspect of an organization chart is when you can show the customer and who's relating, the customer interfaces with our people. That's a good org chart. And of course, they might ask for a schedule. That's a Gantt chart usually. It might be something different if they have a different way of looking at schedules. So you're planning your content. What's going to go in this thing? And then you send people off to write. And you give them a week. And you come back and you have your first draft review. And what you're looking for in that first draft review is, are we complete? Have we answered all the questions? Are we compliant? Are we giving them red frogs or green frogs? Are we compelling? Are our frogs better than the other guy's frogs? And why? Our frogs are better because they jump higher. they have bigger legs. There's all kinds of good things about our frogs and why it's good for you. So that's the stuff that we want to get to in the final draft. First draft is, do we have everything covered? Last draft is, are we the best thing that they want to read? Are we the best solution? Do they just want us because of what we have written? That's your final draft. And you have reviews. You have a review of the draft, you have a review of the final, and ultimately, once you've produced the document, produced the proposal, you're going to have a final white glove review just to make sure that you haven't left anything out. So that used to be that producing the proposal was a lot harder because we were on paper, you had to print everything out, and you had stacks of paper and people in a room filling up 3-ring binders, then you put it in a box and you carry it to the government or mail it to the government or FedEx it to the government or get on a plane, fly somebody through a southern route and somebody else through another route in case the plane crashes. And you make sure you get that proposal to the government. That's what happened in the old days. Then government said, hey, you don't have to do this. Just email it to us. And so emailing was working fine and still does. And then you can also deliver the proposal by way of a portal. A lot of the government organizations that do a whole lot of proposals, they'll have some sort of a portal that you sign up for, and you upload your documents to that portal, and that's how you submit it. But no matter what happens, once you submitted that proposal, you've got to get a receipt that says that you have submitted the proposal. Because if they come back and say, you've been disqualified because you didn't get your proposal in on time, you pull up that receipt and say, well, yes, I did. And now they have to bring you back in. And story, I once delivered a paper proposal to the Transportation Security Agency in Crystal City, and I was wearing shoulder length hair, and I had a denim shirt and blue jeans, and my wife was in a 1995 pickup truck and dropped me off on the wrong corner of the street there in Crystal City at TSA headquarters. So I take this box and I walked it down the street, a whole block, and she's shadowing me, going, driving 5 miles an hour as I walk towards the appropriate door. And I walked in, and there were 6 security guards with their hands on their guns. Well, I flashed them a great big smile, and I said, I'm delivering a proposal. And they all relaxed, and they told me to put it on a conveyor belt that went to the screening thing, and I got a receipt. That was the key. No matter what, the guy's got a gun to your head, get a receipt. So after the award, win or lose, you need to get a debriefing. The government, if you've lost, you need to know why you lost, and you need to know, was it on price, was it on technical, what were our strengths, what were my weaknesses? You really need to know that when you lost, but you also need to know that when you win, because they'll share information about the competitor's solution that you might need to know. And they'll share your weaknesses, things that you can improve upon during performance. They'll share a lot of useful information. And why? Another reason is that suppose somebody protests. In fact, this has happened just the other day. The company I was supporting submitted a winning proposal. There were protests. The government gave out too much information in the debriefs to the competitors. We won. We didn't get a debrief. We also didn't get all that information that the government shared with the competitors. And now there's a recompetition. We have to do it over again. And the competitors know things about us, and we don't know that about them because we did not get a debrief. So we're still going to wait the outcome of what happens for that. But the guy in charge of that one was scratching his head going, man, I always get a debrief. I don't know why I didn't do it this time. Do it. So that's pretty much it. That's how we get from a loss to a win, from a proposal from an RFP to a proposal. And this is my little advertisement here. You can we're independent. We work with JPSys. We love JPSys. We also have other clients that are absolutely awesome that we really like supporting. So here's our contact information. This little graphic on the left, I was talking about graphics. This is a document that explains the whole process of how the government works. with contractors as far as proposals and requirements and RFPs. They need work. They need something done. The government needs something done, and they need a contractor to do it. So they issue their requirements, and then we help the client that knows the requirements, knows how to deliver the solution. We help them deliver the proposal. So the client has the solution. The government needs the client. The client doesn't know how to write proposals. We do, so we help them do that. And consequently, they submit winning proposals and get contracts. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you, Bob. We have a question from the audience, from Charles Walker. Hello, Bob. I hear from many small businesses that if the customer does not know you or your company, you should no bid. I don't believe in that thinking, except in some cases. What are your thoughts about it? And have you or your team won without knowing the customer?
I'll answer the last one first. I was with a small company, and we had just submitted a proposal, and another RFP came out that was identical. So the opportunity cost was almost zero. It was basically copy the proposal, throw it over the wall. And no, the customer did not know us. But what we had is a key person who had done this work and was just completely stellar. And because of her resume, the government selected us, even though they didn't know who we are. They had 27 proposals, by the way, and we were able to win with that. But generally, it's better to know the customer and to have the customer know you. One of my clients received a contract. It was just given to her. There was another, actually, this is with her and the government. Yeah, the government knew her well, and they knew their work well, and they had another contractor that was not performing. So they terminated that other contractor and handed all the work to her because they knew her. So it's always better to have them know you. And so this is where Brian comes in. He helps establish the relationships with these people so that when they get a proposal from you, they know who you are. So it's better to know. I wouldn't say it's an automatic no bid, but here you go on the no bid situation. If you're going into an organization and they don't know you, and they have a contractor that's working this, and they like them, it's highly likely they're going to pick the people they know and like over the stranger. Conflict on the other side, they have a contractor that they don't like, and they're just really looking to get rid of them. Probably they're going to go with somebody they know, but they're going to be a little bit more open-minded to somebody they don't know because they got a problem and they might just want to start over with a clean slate. That's a long answer to a short question.
Thank you, Bob. Let's see if we have any, here's a comment from Shauna. Shauna, would you like to just read this comment of yours?
Yeah, I was just going to say from the inside, as a contracting officer and a former chief of contracting who actually was a selection authority, who made some of these decisions on who gets awards. I would say that, I've made award decisions to award contracts to company I didn't know many, many times. The past performance piece, even when it's for other agencies, carries a lot of weight. That's, that shows consistency, and it shows you've done work in the government. It shows you understand the government's processes. And it does carry weight. Not always is the government looking to use its incumbent again, like Bob said. So, it's important to make sure that if you think it's a win, you don't pass that up and you do put yourself out there, because the government, you never know, could be looking for somebody new.
Great. Okay, we are almost out of time. Are there any other questions from the floor? We do have, by the way, let's go to the next slide. We actually have a couple more slides to take care of here. So if you'd like to apply for the Mint program, please email us at sales@jpsys.com. That will go to Kayla, and we will send you an application form for Mint. So thank you for that. Do we have one more slide after that, I think, Kayla? Right. So again, Mint gives you access to subject matter experts in federal procurement, like the ones we brought to you today. So we have lots of contacts. We've been in business 42 years out of the Washington, D.C. area. And whatever your challenges are finding federal work, chances are we've been through them and can help you or can point you to someone who can. So please reach out to our speakers on LinkedIn. They're available, and they can help you further. Is that the last slide, Kayla? I forget which is the last one. Yeah. So if you want to apply, please drop us an email and ask Kayla for an application. So thank you for joining us. We hope this has been helpful. The federal marketplace is unique. It's very different from commercial. Most companies have completely different corporations depending on which market they're in. Keep that in mind because it's hard to do policies for both types of marketplaces, commercial and federal. So again, I'm Jackie Mulverney, president of JP Systems, and we've enjoyed spending this time with you. This video will be out on our YouTube channel, and feel free to reach out to us at sales@jpsys.com. Thank you.